Now that I finished the fundamentals in the Tisch Academy and done my still life, I could finally start painting what I was looking forward to, landscapes. Now behind me you already see the first landscape I painted, and in this video I'm going to just show you how I painted it and also talk about my struggles, what I learned, what I discovered, and the challenges that I found along the way painting this landscape. And I already can tell you that painting a landscape is a total different dynamic than painting an egg or a cup or a glass. But before I give away too much, let's get into the video. This is the reference that Andrew Tischler provided for this lesson. Now, don't run away and say, oh, that's a terrible reference. We're going to change that. And that is what the whole lesson is about, but about that more. A change I made is I'm painting on a wood panel now, an MDF panel I prepared for painting, sealed it and did an underground on it, but I went a bit too dark with that, and that will result in a darker painting and has influence throughout the painting. And a little bit of a difference too, that with this painting Andrew started with adding some major shadows at some places, some key shadows, and after that we're just going to paint. So I started very roughly. This whole video is the block-in stage where everything will be pretty roughly. And I'm again painting with the Sonja matte acrylics, not an oil, but I'm going to try this landscape in the acrylics instead of oil and see what it will look like, and see if what all the things that I've learned in the previous session, the preparation for all of this, the basics, the foundations I think he calls, yeah, the foundations, and see if I can use them in this painting. Now, to be honest, I find it a very strange lesson to start landscape painting with. This is the first lesson in the landscape section after the foundations. And what we're going to do, we're going to use those references, and he pulls from various references and makes a scene from that and totally changes it. As you can see already here, the reference was in winter. I'm turning it into a summer reference. And I gotta make one remark before I keep on going about this. What I'm using here is the Masterson Stay Wet palette. My acrylics dried way too fast, but as you can see, this is a day later, so we're now in day 2, and all these paints are still wet and I can continue, and I really love that. That's a great addition to my setup and helps me to use the acrylics longer instead of them all drying out overnight and not being able to use them. And throughout my paint session, they stayed nice and wet. Okay, back to the lesson. As said, I find it a bit of a strange lesson to start with, especially if you have just finished the foundations and you just, well, barely know how to paint certain subjects and haven't done a landscape. Was really hard because we've got references from all kinds of seasons, trying to change the main reference into something pleasing. And as a beginner and not knowing all the techniques about the landscape, that was a challenge. This was a real challenge, and I think in the end I did pretty okay with the block-in session. Followed him as good as I could, but it was hard because the lesson wasn't about painting really the landscape, and that is missing really. I would think from the foundations of oil paint, you would go into the foundations of landscape painting, and those are missing. So that is one little remark I have to make, but I have to put a but with that. I've done this in the summer already, or before the summer actually, and we're now in the autumn here. And Andrew has announced that he will add new lessons with some basics, really starting at the basics of landscape painting, like the skies, like the trees. So probably it has come to his attention that many people struggle with this. So there are going to be changes in the academy. But that is after I've painted this painting, so I will go back to those lessons anyway. So I've got a lot of it already in it. I'm now working on the rocks. I've got the trees, the base of the trees, the landscape itself, and now the rocks. And then of course I have to do the water. And this is just the block-in stage where we're going to add details, just the major subjects, some major shadows in it. And that is all that this video will also be about, and that the first part of his lesson was about, of course. And in the next video, I will start adding some details to make this look better than it looks. The brushes I'm using here for the block-in are Raphael Textura, bit more stiff brushes, because I was hoping that with these brushes I could get some nice texture. Now in the sky you can see a little bit of it. It looks like textured, but it's pretty much flat. And when Andrew starts painting and using the bristle brushes, he gets this nice texture in his paint, and later on, of course, he makes use of that by adding more texture, catching the light better, and you get more of a depth in it. While my painting is pretty much flat, I was hoping these brushes would do it, but the paint is too thin for that. The Sonja paint isn't thick enough to retain those brush strokes. It just pretty much caves in. So my painting is flatter than I want it to be. So I'm now working on the river, and I'm hoping to get some nice transparent parts later on and some flowing water. But already looking at the painting that Andrew is making, I'm not sure if I get close enough that I want, because I'm still not totally 100% confident with this technique. So that's it. That is the painting. The block-in for now. I'm finished, and in the next video I will continue adding details and finishing this painting. So thank you for being with me in this video, and I'll hope to see you very soon, sooner than regularly in the next video.